Ryan lived a quiet life in the human colony on the far edge of known space. The colony was small, built under a transparent dome that kept out the cold winds of the barren planet. Days were calm, work was steady, and nights were long. Most people in the colony followed a routine. They worked in the fields, repaired machines, or checked the systems that kept air and water running. Ryan was no different. He was young, curious, and often wondered what lay beyond the stars, but his life stayed simple. That evening was supposed to be like any other. He had just returned from the greenhouse where he had been checking the water flow. His hands smelled faintly of soil and his boots were still dusty. Inside his small room, light from the dome's sun lamps glowed through the window. He placed his tools neatly on the shelf, then sat at the desk to read one of his old books. Reading was his way of escaping the endless routine of the colony. The words carried him to faraway places he could only dream of. As he turned a page, the quiet hum of the dome's systems filled the air. The sound was normal, steady like a heartbeat of the colony. But then something new cut through the silence. A faint vibration like a ripple in the air spread across his room. At first, Ryan thought it was just his imagination. Maybe the dome lights had flickered, or maybe his tired eyes were playing tricks. He blinked, but the shimmer grew stronger. In the center of his room, just above the floor, the air seemed to bend. Light curved and twisted, forming a soft glow. Ryan stood quickly, knocking his chair back. His heart raced, but his legs felt frozen. He had never seen anything like it. Slowly the glow widened, stretching into the shape of a doorway, though no door existed. And then someone stepped through. It was a woman, though not like anyone he had ever seen. She was tall, her movements graceful, her eyes shining with a faint silver light. Her hair flowed like strands of dark silk, and her skin carried a pale shimmer, as if touched by starlight. She looked around the room, calm and certain as though she knew this place well. Finally, her eyes rested on Ryan. "You keep your tools on the shelf just as you always do," she said softly, her voice smooth and steady. Ryan's mouth went dry. His mind scrambled for words, but none came. He had never seen her before, yet she spoke as if she had known him for years. "Who are you?" he managed at last, his voice uneven. The woman tilted her head slightly, as though surprised by the question. "I am Nira," she answered, "and I have always known this room." Ryan shook his head, his thoughts tangled. "That's not possible. No one came in through the colony gates. No ship landed. You can't just appear here." Nira stepped closer, her footsteps light and sure. She reached out, brushing her fingers along the desk where his book still lay open. She touched the page gently, like someone who had done so many times before. "You were reading this last time too," she said with a small smile. "Last time." The word struck Ryan like a wave. There had been no last time. This was the first time he had ever seen her. He tried to step back, but his room was too small. He felt the wall press against his shoulders. "How do you know me?" he asked, trying to keep his voice firm. Nira looked at him with eyes that seemed both ancient and kind. "Because we have walked together before. Maybe not yet for you, but for me it has already been." Ryan frowned, not understanding. His heart pounded faster. She was calm, confident, while he stood trapped in confusion. The colony had always been safe, predictable. Strangers did not appear in locked rooms. Visitors did not speak as though they belonged. And yet, as strange as it was, Ryan felt no fear. Something in her presence carried peace, as if she had stepped into the room not as a stranger, but as a piece of a story that had been waiting to unfold. He tried again. "You should not be here. If the council finds out, they will think you are dangerous. How did you even enter?" Nira's smile deepened, gentle and knowing. "I did not enter. I returned." Her words sent a chill down Ryan's spine. Nothing made sense, yet her certainty left no room for doubt. She looked around the room again, studying every detail with the ease of someone who had lived there. Ryan lowered his voice, almost whispering. "What do you want from me?" Nira met his eyes and said, "Only what you already promised. Long ago you told me I would find you here, and here you are." The words wrapped around him like a riddle he could not solve. He had never promised such a thing. He had never seen her before this moment, but deep inside a quiet spark stirred, as if part of him recognized the truth in her voice even if his mind did not. The room, once familiar and plain, no longer felt the same. With Nira standing there, it felt as though walls of time had bent and folded, bringing two different paths together. Ryan did not know whether to push her away or listen closer. But he did know one thing. His life, once simple and quiet, would never be the same again. The night stretched long in the colony dome, but Rian did not sleep. Nira sat calmly across the room as if she belonged there, as if she had always belonged. Her silver eyes followed the faint glow of the lamp and her hands rested gently on her lap. She did not seem nervous, nor did she try to leave. Instead, she looked at Ryan with the steady patience of someone waiting for a friend to remember a promise. Ryan, however, could not rest. His thoughts spun in circles. He tried to convince himself that this was a dream, that when he woke, his room would be empty and silent again. But every time he glanced at Nira, her calm expression reminded him that this was no dream. "You speak like you know me," Ryan said at last. His voice was low, tired, but also sharp with curiosity. "But I have never seen you before tonight." Nira tilted her head slightly as if weighing her words. "You have not seen me yet, but I have seen you, many times." Her answer made little sense, yet the way she said it carried no doubt. Rian frowned, rubbing his forehead. "That is impossible. People do not meet before they meet. Time does not work like that. Time is not the same everywhere," Nira replied gently. "In my world, years move differently. Paths cross at different points. What you call tomorrow may already be yesterday for me." Ryan stared at her, confused and unsettled, yet something in her tone reminded him of old stories he used to read. Tales where humans met travelers who lived outside of normal time. Those were only stories, he told himself. This was real. He tried to test her. "If you know me, then tell me something no stranger could know." Nira's eyes softened. "When you were a child, you hid a small stone under your bed. It was smooth and blue, a gift from your father. You kept it because you were afraid of losing him when he worked outside the dome." Ryan froze. His breath caught in his chest. He had never told anyone about that stone, not even his closest friend. The memory came back so sharply that his chest ached. He could almost feel the stone in his palm again, cool and solid. "How do you know that?" he whispered. "Because you told me," Nira said simply. "Not now, not yet. But once, long ago." The words unsettled him, yet also pulled at something deeper inside. He wanted to deny her, to tell her she was lying, but her calm voice and steady eyes left no space for doubt. Ryan sank into his chair, trying to breathe. "This makes no sense. If what you say is true, then we are trapped in some kind of circle." Nira gave a small smile. "Perhaps it is not a trap. Perhaps it is a path. A path we have walked before and must walk again." The room grew quiet. The hum of the dome's systems filled the silence, steady and faint. Outside, the stars stretched across the sky, distant and bright. For the first time, Rian felt the weight of those stars as if they were watching. He studied her again. Everything about Nira was calm, yet she carried an air of certainty, as if she had lived through years of waiting just to be here. "Why now?" he asked. "Why appear tonight in my room in this colony?" "Because this is the place you said I would find you," she replied. "I waited, I searched, and at last the path opened. You were here just as you promised." Ryan shook his head. "I never promised you anything." "Not yet," Nira said softly. "But you will." Her words struck him deeply. A part of him wanted to argue, but another part felt strangely quiet, almost accepting. He did not understand why. The hours passed, but neither of them moved much. Ryan asked questions, and Nira answered with fragments of memory, pieces of stories he could not place. She spoke of a valley with two suns where he once stood by her side. She described the way he laughed after fixing a machine that no one else could repair. She recalled small moments, details that felt too personal to be invented. Every answer only deepened his confusion, but also built a strange thread of trust. He could not explain it, but he felt less like a prisoner of mystery, and more like a participant in something greater, something beyond simple chance. At last, when the lamp dimmed and the colony shifted into night cycle, Nira rose to her feet. "You are tired, rest now. Tomorrow will bring questions from others. They will not see me as you do," Ryan tensed. "You mean the council?" She nodded. "They will ask. They will doubt. Be careful with your words." Her calm warning made his chest tighten. The council had strict rules about strangers and visitors. If they learned that someone appeared in his room without record, they would treat it as a threat. And if they thought Rian was hiding something, his life in the colony would become very difficult. He looked at her sharply. "Then why stay here? Why not leave before they find out?" Nira's eyes met his, steady and unshaken. "Because I did not come to leave. I came to stay. You may not remember yet, but this is where I belong." Her words lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. Ryan turned toward the window, staring at the stars above the dome. His life had always been simple, safe, and quiet. But now, with this stranger who spoke like an old friend, the silence of the colony no longer felt the same. And for the first time, he wondered if his life had been waiting all along for this very moment. The morning light filtered through the dome's panels, soft and pale. Ryan sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor. Sleep had escaped him all night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Nira's silver gaze, calm and steady, watching him like someone who already knew the end of a story. She had not left. She sat quietly near the desk, her hands folded neatly, her eyes closed in stillness. It was not the restless sleep of humans, but more like a deep, silent rest. When Ryan shifted, her eyes opened, alert and bright as though no time had passed. "You did not sleep," she said gently. "I could not," Ryan admitted. "My mind is full of questions." Nira gave a small nod as though she had expected this. "Then ask," Ryan hesitated. He had spent the night turning over every detail she revealed, but the one thing that troubled him most was the way she spoke of time. "You said I once helped your people, but I never met you before yesterday. How can both things be true?" Nira looked at him with quiet patience. "For me, it already happened. For you, it has not yet. Our paths do not move at the same speed. What is past for me can still be future for you." Ryan rubbed his temples. The idea was heavy, almost impossible to carry. "That sounds like a story, not real life." "Stories and life are not so far apart," she replied softly. Her calm words stirred something inside him. He wanted to argue, but instead he remembered the stone from his childhood, the secret only she had known. That truth kept pulling him back from disbelief. He leaned forward. "If I helped you, then tell me how. What did I do?" Nira's eyes softened, but she did not answer at once. She rose to her feet and walked slowly around the room. She touched the edges of the desk, the shelf with tools, the plain wall where faint scratches marked years of use. Finally, she turned back to him. "You stood with us when no one else would. When the sky above my home split with fire and our world began to break, you gave us what we could not give ourselves. You brought hope. You repaired what was lost. You showed us a way to live again." Her words were steady, but her eyes carried weight, as if remembering something painful. Ryan shook his head quickly. "That cannot be true. I do not even know where your home is. I do not have that kind of skill. I fix small tools, nothing more." "You will," Nira said firmly. "That is why I came. You will learn, you will grow, and when the time comes, you will stand where you must." The certainty in her voice unsettled him. How could she speak of his future as if it was already written? Yet even as doubt filled his mind, part of him wanted to believe. Before he could answer, the dome's alarm chimed softly, signaling the start of the work cycle. A voice crackled through the colony's intercom, calling citizens to their duties. Ryan felt a chill run down his back. The council would soon notice if something unusual had happened. He looked at Nira. "If the council finds out you are here, they will ask questions. They may think you are a spy." Nira's gaze did not waver. "Truth does not fear questions, but not all will hear truth with open hearts." Her words carried warning. Ryan knew she was right. The council valued order above all else. An unrecorded visitor would break that order. He would be forced to explain, and they would not believe his answer. He took a deep breath. "Then you cannot stay here. Not openly. At least not until I understand more." Nira stepped closer, her expression gentle but firm. "I will not leave you. Where you go, I must remain. We are bound, Ryan, whether you accept it or not." The word sent another shiver through him. Bound. He did not know if it was truth or illusion, yet it was clear she believed it. Later that day, as Ryan walked through the colony's narrow halls, the weight of her presence followed him. He worked at the greenhouse as usual, checked the water lines, greeted familiar faces, but his mind stayed restless. Behind every task, he wondered what Nira was doing back in his room, waiting as though she belonged. That evening, when he returned, she was still there. This time she stood by the window, looking out at the stars. The faint glow of the planet's horizon painted her face in silver light. "You look at the stars often," she said without turning. Ryan paused, surprised. "How do you know that?" "Because you did the same on my world." You always search for meaning in the sky. Her words struck him deeply. He had never told anyone about those quiet moments of wonder. The nights he spent staring at the stars as if they were calling him, yet she spoke as though it was the most natural thing to know. He stepped closer, his voice quiet. If all this is true, then why me? Why not someone stronger, wiser, someone who already has the skill? Nira turned, meeting his eyes with calm certainty. Because it is not strength or wisdom alone that shapes destiny. It is the heart that chooses to act when all else fails. That is what you gave us. That is what you will give again. Ryan stood frozen, caught between fear and wonder. The colony around him remained the same, quiet, ordered, routine. But inside his small room, a stranger who was no stranger had changed everything. He realized then that his life was no longer just his own. A connection existed, woven across time and stars, linking him to a future he did not yet understand. And for the first time, he felt both the weight and the possibility of that bond. The following days in the colony passed with a strange mix of routine and secrecy. Ryan tried to work as he always did, but his thoughts never left Nira. Every time he walked through the greenhouse or adjusted the water lines, he felt the weight of her presence waiting back in his room. She was patient, never demanding, never restless, yet her calm words lingered in his mind, pushing him to question everything he thought he knew about his life. One evening, just as he was returning from duty, 2 members of the colony council stood at his door. Their dark uniforms made them easy to recognize. Ryan's heart jumped. "Ryan," one of them said in a flat tone, "we received a report of unusual energy patterns near your living space. Can you explain?" Ryan froze. He thought of the shimmer of light that had brought Nira into his room, the strange doorway that had opened without warning. His throat felt dry, but he forced himself to answer. "I do not know. I was reading last night. Maybe it was a system fault." The council members exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. "We will run checks. If you notice anything again, you must report at once," the second officer said. "You know the rules." "Order must be kept," Ryan nodded quickly. "Yes, I understand." When they left, he stepped inside, his pulse racing. Nira stood near the desk, her calm silver eyes watching him. She had clearly heard everything. "They will not stop asking," she said softly. "They cannot know you are here," Ryan whispered, lowering his voice. "If they find you, they will not listen to me. They will think you are a danger." Nira walked closer, her presence steady and unshaken. Fear always creates walls. "But truth finds a way through," Ryan sighed. "Truth is not enough for them. They want control." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then Nira placed her hand on the desk, brushing against the edge of his open book. "You seek answers, Ryan. I will give you one. But you must be ready to carry it." He looked up, uncertain. "What do you mean?" Without replying, Nira began to hum softly, a sound that seemed both strange and familiar at once. The air in the room shifted and faint images shimmered around her like mist. Ryan blinked, then stared as scenes unfolded, glimpses of places he had never seen yet somehow recognized. He saw a wide valley under 2 suns, its ground covered in glowing grass. Towers of glass and stone rose in the distance, shining under golden skies. Then he saw flames tearing across that same valley, buildings falling, people fleeing, and among them stood Nira, younger but still the same, her eyes filled with fear. In the vision, another figure appeared. It was him, or at least someone who looked like him. He was older, his hair touched with gray, his hands steady as he worked on a broken machine while Nira stood beside him. The machine flared with light, pushing back the destruction around them. Ryan gasped. The vision faded, leaving only the quiet room. His chest felt heavy, his breath uneven. "That was not a dream," Nira said, her voice low. "That was memory. My memory. You were there. You saved us when no one else could." Ryan pressed his hands against his knees, trying to steady himself. "How can that be me? I have never left this colony. I have never seen your world." "Not yet," she reminded him gently. "But time folds. Paths cross at strange points. For me, it has already happened. For you, it waits ahead." The weight of her words pressed down on him. He wanted to reject it, to call it impossible. And yet the memory felt real. He had seen his own hands working, felt the certainty of action, the bond of standing beside her in crisis. It was too vivid to dismiss. He stood and walked to the window, staring at the distant stars beyond the dome. If this is true, then why hide it from the colony? Why not tell the council yourself? Nira joined him at the window, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight. Because they will not hear me. Their hearts are closed by fear, but you carry the same spark you once did. If you believe, others may follow. Rian turned to her, torn between doubt and a strange pull of trust. He had lived his whole life under the colony's rules, safe and predictable. Yet in just a few days, this stranger had made him question everything. That night, as he lay awake again, he realized the council would not ignore the signs. They would keep watching. They would return with more questions. And when they did, he would have to choose, protect Nira or surrender her to their judgment. Before sleep finally reached him, Nira's voice echoed in his mind. We are bound, Ryan. Shadows of the past will follow, but so will light. Remember that. He did not know if he could believe in destiny, but he could not deny the truth of her presence. She was no stranger. Somehow across time and memory, she was already part of his life. And whether he was ready or not, the shadows of the past had already begun to reach into his present. The morning air in the colony was crisp, and the dome's lights glowed softly across the workstations. Rian moved through the halls, but his mind was elsewhere. Nira's words from the night before lingered in his thoughts. Shadows of the past, light of the future. He still could not fully understand what she meant, yet he felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him. As he worked in the greenhouse, checking water valves and inspecting plant growth, he realized he could not ignore the warnings any longer. Nira had told him that something would come, a challenge that only he could face. At first he had thought she was speaking metaphorically, but the truth pressed closer with every strange event around the colony. Machines hummed with odd patterns, lights flickered, and unexplained energy waves pulsed through the dome. By mid-afternoon, Ryan returned to his room where Nira was already waiting. Her eyes met his with quiet certainty. You cannot wait any longer, she said. The shift is coming. The energy will reach the colony soon. You must act. Ryan hesitated. Act? I do not understand. What can I do? I am just one person. Not just one person, Nira corrected. You are the one who will guide others. You carry what they cannot see yet. The knowledge, the skill, and the heart to make the right choice. Ryan shook his head. The responsibility felt too heavy. I do not even know what I am supposed to do. If I fail the colony, you will not fail, Nira said firmly. But you must trust yourself as I trust you. Her confidence forced him to pause. He wanted to doubt, to reject the impossible. Yet she did not ask him to believe blindly. She offered guidance, steady and calm, as if she knew the path already. They spent the next hour examining the colony's energy grid. Machines hummed with strange vibrations, patterns that Ryan had never noticed before. Nira explained how subtle shifts in the energy could lead to larger problems if left unchecked. She moved with ease, adjusting small controls, her touch precise and confident. Ryan watched and tried to imitate, following her instructions carefully. This is not something I learned in the training programs, he said, frustration in his voice. How do you expect me to know this? Because you will learn, Nira replied. The knowledge is already within you. I am only helping you remember. Her words puzzled him. Remember, he had no memory of any of this. But as he followed her guidance, correcting minor faults in the system, a strange familiarity began to grow. It was as if some part of him already knew these steps, even if his conscious mind did not. Hours passed, and the hum of the machines grew steady again. The lights stabilized. The energy pulses returned to normal. Ryan leaned back, exhausted, but a spark of pride and relief warmed him. You see, Nira said softly, you were never alone. You were always capable of this. You just needed someone to remind you. Ryan looked at her, still unsure. I do not know if I am ready for what comes next. If the shift reaches the colony fully, Nira walked closer, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. Then you will act, and you will do it with the strength you did not know you had. Trust yourself, Rian. Trust the bond between us. That bond is stronger than fear. Her words settled in his mind like water filling a dry cup. He realized that this was not just about machines or energy waves. It was about courage, about choosing to act even when the outcome was uncertain. And for the first time, he felt that courage stirring inside him. That night, they practiced again. Nira guided him through every step, explaining energy flows, teaching him patterns and showing him how to stabilize the colony's systems. She never scolded, never demanded. She only offered calm instruction, and slowly Ryan felt the knowledge forming in his hands, his mind, and his heart. After the practice, they sat near the window, looking out at the stars. Ryan's chest still carried the weight of what was to come, but now it was mixed with determination. "You really think I can do this?" he asked quietly. "I know you can," Neera said simply. "The trial will come and you will face it. The question is not whether you can, but whether you will choose to act when the moment arrives." Ryan looked at her, feeling a mixture of fear and resolve. He understood now that the test was not just about machines or energy grids. It was about trust. Trust in himself, trust in her, and trust in the connection that had brought them together across time and stars. The stars outside the dome seemed brighter than usual. Ryan wondered if Neera could see the same future he was only beginning to glimpse. He felt the pull of destiny, strong and steady. And for the first time he realized that the path ahead, however difficult, was his to walk. Neera rose, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "Rest now, Ryan. Tomorrow the challenge will reach you. But tonight remember this, you are not alone." "You never were." Ryan nodded, watching her leave a small distance away. His room, once ordinary and safe, now felt like the center of a turning point. The colony outside might not understand what was happening, but inside his room he had begun to awaken to a truth larger than himself. And when the shift came, he would act. The colony's systems hummed quietly in the early morning light, but Ryan's mind was anything but quiet. Since the arrival of Neera, every moment had been filled with questions, lessons, and strange visions of a world he could not yet understand. Today, however, he felt a new urgency, as though the threads of time were pulling him forward to something he could no longer delay. Neera was waiting for him in his room, her posture calm and steady. She looked at him with the same quiet certainty that had guided him for days. "Today we go deeper," she said. "There are things you must see. Things the colony does not know." Ryan followed her cautiously through the narrow hallways, each step heavier than the last. They passed the main energy hub, the greenhouse, and finally reached a small maintenance chamber hidden beneath the colony. The entrance was tucked behind crates and maintenance tools, nearly invisible to anyone who had not worked there for years. Neera pushed aside a metal panel, revealing a staircase that spiraled downward into darkness. "This place holds the truth," she said. "Archives from before the colony was built. Records that were erased, hidden, or forgotten." Ryan's heart raced. He had never been below the colony before, and the air smelled faintly of metal and old dust. As they descended, strange symbols glowed faintly along the walls, their light pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Ryan could not read them, but something in his mind recognized their shape, their rhythm. At the bottom of the staircase, Neera led him to a chamber filled with glowing panels, shelves of old data cores, and stacks of records. "These archives were hidden because people did not understand," she explained. "They feared the truth. But now it is time for you to see." Ryan stepped forward, hesitating only briefly before reaching out to one of the panels. As he touched it, images flickered to life. Scenes of human engineers working with alien technology. Charts mapping energy flows and blueprints of distant planets appeared before him. He saw humans traveling between stars, helping other worlds and forming bonds with civilizations he had never imagined. "Your family line was part of this," Neera said softly. "Generations ago, humans promised to protect and guide my people. That promise was forgotten, erased from the official records. But it never truly disappeared." Ryan's mind spun. His family? Promises to aliens? It was too much to take in at once. Yet as he looked at the glowing panels, fragments of memory surfaced, small moments he had never understood. A story his father once told about helping strangers, a strange symbol carved into his grandfather's tools, a lullaby sung in a language he did not know. Pieces of a puzzle he had never seen before now began to fit together. Neera stepped closer, her hand brushing his shoulder. "You were always meant to awaken to this truth. That is why I returned. You must remember so you can act." Ryan swallowed hard, trying to steady himself. "Remember what?" "I do not understand. I was just a boy in this colony. I never went to other worlds." "I never—" "You did," Neera said firmly. "Not yet for you, but in a way you already did. Time is not a straight line. You touched our world once before and you will touch it again. The skills, the courage, the choices you made there, they exist inside you now, waiting to be remembered. Rian's chest tightened. He reached for one of the floating panels, his fingers trembling as he scanned the images. He saw himself standing beside Nira, repairing a large machine holding the hands of her people as they rebuilt their homes. The scene was vivid and detailed. He could feel the hum of the machinery, hear the voices of those around him, and sense the trust they placed in him. "It feels real," he whispered, almost afraid to speak, "but I do not remember it." "Memory is not always linear," Nira said. "Sometimes it sleeps until the right moment. Today it awakens." Rian took a deep breath, letting the energy of the archives and the presence of Nira settle in his mind. The fear he had carried for days, the fear of failing, of being unprepared, began to fade. In its place, he felt something stronger: clarity. He understood that his life had always been part of a larger plan, that the bond he shared with Nira was not accidental, but forged across time and space. Nira smiled, seeing the change in him. "You see now," she said softly, "you are not just a boy in a colony. You are a bridge. You carry the promise of humanity to worlds that need it, and when the moment comes, you will act with courage and wisdom." Ryan nodded slowly, feeling the truth of her words settle into his heart. For the first time, he felt the connection between past, present, and future. The threads of destiny, once invisible, now wove around him, steady and unbroken. As they left the hidden archives and returned to the surface, Ryan looked out across the colony. The dome was calm, the stars bright above. Yet he knew that the calm would not last. The cosmic shift Nira had warned him about was approaching. And when it arrived, he would face it armed with knowledge, courage, and the bond that had brought Nira into his life. He realized that he had been waiting for this awakening all along. The forgotten future was now his present to shape, and he would not fail. The colony was quiet that morning, yet the air was tense with anticipation. Machines hummed softly, and the faint glow of the dome reflected against the walls. Ryan moved through the corridors with careful steps, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Today, the cosmic shift Nira had spoken of would arrive. The test he had prepared for, learned from Nira and the hidden archives, was about to begin. He entered his room and found Nira waiting, calm as always. Her silver eyes met his, and he felt a surge of confidence he had not known before. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. Rian nodded. "I am ready. I understand now what I must do," Nira smiled. "Good. Remember, you do not act alone. The bond between us and the knowledge you carry will guide you." As they left the room together, the first tremors of the energy shift began to ripple through the colony. Lights flickered, machines whirred, and the hum of the dome grew louder, almost like a voice warning them of what was coming. Citizens glanced around, worried and uncertain, as small alarms signaled irregular energy flows. Rian led Nira to the main energy hub, where panels and controls pulsed with strange patterns. He could feel the vibration in his hands, the subtle currents that ran through the system. Taking a deep breath, he focused on what Nira had taught him. He remembered the motions, the steps, and the precise timing required to stabilize the colony's systems. Nira guided him quietly, her voice steady. "Trust yourself. Trust the flow. The energy responds to clarity and intent." Ryan moved with care, following her instructions and adding the adjustments he had practiced countless times in the past days. The energy pulses began to calm. The flickering light steadied, and the hum of the dome returned to its normal rhythm. Each successful step strengthened his confidence. He realized he was not just following instructions, he was acting with understanding, remembering the lessons that were always part of him. Outside, the other colonists watched in awe. Some whispered about the strange calm that seemed to come from Ryan. Others wondered how he knew exactly what to do. The council, who had once doubted him, now observed silently, unable to deny the control he had over the situation. Minutes passed, but the tremors of the cosmic shift lessened with each adjustment Ryan made. The energy grid stabilized, and the colony's systems returned to normal operation. Ryan exhaled deeply, his chest light for the first time in weeks. He had done it. Nira placed a hand on his shoulder. "You see? You were never alone. You carried the promise, the skill, and the courage all along." Rian looked at her, a mixture of relief and wonder in his eyes. "I never thought I could do this. I never believed it was possible." Nira smiled softly, Belief comes after action. You acted, and now you understand. The bond between us, the connection across time, has brought you here. The council members stepped forward, approaching Rian and Nira. Their expressions were a mix of awe and respect. One of them spoke, voice steady but quiet. Ryan, what you did, it saved the colony. We see now that there is more to our history than we realized. Ryan nodded, glancing at Nira. It was not just me. We worked together. The council's doubts faded, replaced by recognition of the truth. Nira's presence was no longer a mystery. Her calm, steady guidance had proven that humanity and her people shared a bond, one that transcended time and space. That evening, as the colony returned to its normal rhythm, Ryan and Nira stood near the window of his room looking out at the stars. The sky stretched endlessly above, full of light and possibility. You belong here, Ryan said quietly, turning to her. I understand now. You are not a stranger. You were always part of this story. Nira's eyes shone softly. And you belong among the stars, Ryan. Not just here, not just in this colony, but wherever your courage and heart take you. Ryan smiled, feeling a peace he had never known. The fear, the doubt, and the uncertainty of the past weeks had dissolved. In their place was clarity, purpose, and the knowledge that connection between humans and other worlds, between past and future, was stronger than any obstacle. For the first time, Ryan understood the meaning of Nira's arrival. She had not come by accident. She had walked into his room because, in a way, she had always belonged there, and he had welcomed her not as a stranger, but as a friend, a guide, and a reminder of the strength of humanity. Together, they watched the stars, knowing that their journey had only just begun. The shift had passed, but the path ahead held new challenges and new discoveries. And with courage, trust, and the bond they shared, they would face whatever came next. Rian realized that life was no longer just his own story. It was a story of connection, of promise kept across time and space, and of humanity reaching beyond its own limits to touch other worlds. And in that moment, he knew one truth above all. No matter where the stars led, Nira had always belonged there, and he had always belonged with her in this moment. Standing together against the unknown, the colony was safe, the energy balanced, and the future stretched out, bright and full of possibilities. Ryan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility and the joy of triumph together. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to act, to trust, and to belong, and the stars shone above, steady and eternal, as if celebrating the bond between two worlds, two hearts, and one destiny.